the rolling hills of Robertson County, Tennessee, in the early 1800s, there lived a prosperous farmer named John Bell. He owned rich land, cattle, and a large family, a man respected by his neighbors, a pillar of the small frontier community. Nothing about his life suggested that his name would one day be tied to one of the most documented hauntings in American history. It began, as these things often do, with something small. A strange animal was seen near the Bell property, a creature that resembled a dog with the head of a rabbit, sitting motionless in a field, watching. Then came the sounds. At night, the family would hear knocking on the outer walls of the house, faint at first, then growing bolder as though something unseen was testing the wood, testing its way in. John Bell dismissed it. Rats, he told his family. The wind. But rats do not scratch in rhythm, and wind does not drag chains across a wooden floor. The disturbances grew. Furniture shifted in empty rooms. Blankets were torn from sleeping children in the middle of the night, pulled by hands nobody could see. The youngest daughter, Betsy, became the entity's favorite target. She would wake screaming, her hair yanked, her cheeks slapped raw by an invisible palm. Her parents held her, rocked her, prayed over her, and still the marks appeared. Red welts blooming across her skin as though drawn by a hand that had simply decided to leave its signature. Word spread through the county, as word always does in small farming towns, where everyone knows everyone's business. Neighbors came to see for themselves, skeptical, arms crossed, ready to explain it all away with rational words, and one by one, the entity broke them down. It began to speak, not in growls or moans, but in a voice, hoarse, dry, almost human, whispering from corners where no one stood, then growing louder, clearer, until it filled entire rooms with words no living person had spoken. It called itself many things over time. Some nights it claimed to be the spirit of a witch persecuted long ago. Other nights it said it was a wandering spirit unable to find rest. Or something older still, something that predated the family, predated the land, something that had simply chosen the Bells as its stage. It sang hymns in the dead of night, mimicking the voices of the family's own preacher. It quoted scripture with unsettling accuracy, and then, in the same breath, it would curse, hiss, and threaten the very people whose hospitality it had invaded. John Bell became its central target. Where the young daughter suffered slaps and pinches, the father suffered something crueler, a slow, grinding torment. His tongue would swell without cause, leaving him unable to eat for days. His jaw would lock so tightly that his family had to force liquid between his teeth just to keep him alive. The voice, the thing they had begun to call the Bell Witch, took a cruel pleasure in his suffering, mocking him in front of visitors, promising that his torment was far from finished. General Andrew Jackson, long before he became President of the United States, is said to have heard of the haunting and traveled to the Bell farm with a group of men to witness it himself, confident that whatever was happening could be explained, exposed, or frightened off by armed and reasonable men. According to the legend, his wagon wheels froze solid on flat, dry ground the moment he crossed onto Bell land. No mud, no ice, simply refusing to turn, as though something had reached out and gripped them still. One of his men, a self-proclaimed witch hunter, boasted he would shoot the spirit dead with a silver bullet. That night, the voice found him in the dark, and by morning he had fled the property, pale and shaking, refusing to speak of what had been said to him. The entity's cruelty toward John Bell only deepened with time. It promised, openly and repeatedly, that it intended to kill him, not out of hunger for blood, but out of what it called justice, though it never explained what wrong he had done to deserve such a sentence. In December of 1820, John Bell was discovered unconscious in his home, and near his body, an unfamiliar vial of dark liquid was later found on a shelf, one nobody in the household recognized or claimed to have placed there. He died soon after, and in the hours following his death, as the family and neighbors gathered in grief, the voice is said to have laughed, a long, satisfied, echoing laugh, and declared that it had finally done what it set out to do, that it had poisoned him, that justice, in its own twisted definition, had been served. The haunting did not end cleanly with his death. It lingered for a time afterward, visiting Betsy still, whispering to the remaining family before finally announcing its own departure, promising, almost playfully, that it would return in 7 years. And according to the accounts passed down through the family, it did return briefly, years later, speaking once more to Betsy's brother before falling silent for good, leaving behind only the stories, the testimonies, and a name that would follow the Bell family and the land itself for generations. To this day, the story of the Bell Witch remains one of the only documented hauntings in American history where a spirit was blamed by name and by public record for a human death. The old Bell property in Tennessee still draws visitors, some curious, some skeptical, some genuinely afraid, walking the same fields where a family once listened to knocking in their walls and voices in their children's rooms, wondering even now whether whatever walked those hills back then ever really left at all, or whether it simply learned over 2 centuries how to wait in silence.